it's Aaron Stelle with West. I'm here with Eric Hagstette with Inhabit Real Estate. Really excited to have you, Eric. Thanks for taking the time to join me today.
Hey, thanks, Aaron. It's good to be here.
Yeah. So first off, one of the things that, that makes you unique is you have multiple things going on, but being a broker owner, in a small boutique shop where really you're kind of responsible for everything and you're not getting like corporate mandates or anything like that. What have you done in order to really keep your brokerage going, and also figure out how you're going to deal with the whole pandemic we're in?
Oh yeah, good question. Well, we had to jump in feet first, and out of nowhere, I became a policy writer and a protocol writer on how to handle everything, which was challenging to say the least. But what we did was, one of the nice things about a company our size is that really could work together with my brokers to determine what kind of safety plans we wanted to implement together for the buyers, for the sellers. We had to throw together our office policy immediately, and interestingly enough, I spent almost what felt like a week writing buyer policies, seller policies, office policies, and then right afterwards, PMAR rolled out with all of our OAR, and PMAR rolled out with all of their policies, which is fine. But yeah, so we've been rolling with the punches, so to speak, and really just trying everything we could do to maintain our structure, our training structure, our sales meetings, our new broker workshops and things like that, to resume we've been trying to resume as much normalcy as possible, given what we're all faced with right now. Very proud of my crew, and really enjoying working with my brokers on a very human level through this, which has been one of the best silver linings. It's really, connecting on a human level, caring for each other, listening to each other, and developing our policies together, and also a lot of counsel, of course, and keeping the brokers' heads in the right place, and helping remind everybody that this is temporary. Yeah.
So, along those lines, like what are you getting in regards to now we're in this? It was like, the learning curve. Okay, this is where we are now. Like, what are we doing next? Like, what are you seeing from your brokers as far as like a headspace or, kind of their adaptation? Like, what's kind of the gut feeling you get from now having an audience that you can actually speak to?
Yeah, good question. It's been very interesting because we have approximately 30 brokers, and I would say that we have, 30 different people with 30 different sets of concerns, general attitude on pandemic, shelter in place. And so taking into consideration a variety of opinions like that is challenging, to say the least. Of course, in the beginning and still now, safety is our #1 priority. And so we just focused on staying in close human connection with the brokers on the sales calls and really checking in on a person-to-person level. And then slowly throughout shelter in place and COVID-19, we began to slowly shift our messaging and our conversations to how do we stay very sensitive and careful with our messaging and ourselves and our families and loved ones, friends, clients. But how do we start talking about real estate now in a sensitive way, and a way that helps people understand that we do care about them primarily, but real estate is something that, as you've heard many people say, could be one of the platforms that pulls us out of this. And so we have a responsibility to our clients and to our audience to begin talking about it and sharing market updates, bits and pieces of information that help people form decisions around what they're going to do, because we're all feeling a huge amount of pent-up demand right now in the real estate space, as far as people perhaps wanting to move up or move down, or unfortunately people in distressed situations. And so we weave together a really nice conversation around safety, but also beginning to speak more and more about real estate, it's just happening organically that way.
Yeah, and I think, and maybe it's just me, but I'm always sensitive to marketing messages. And early on, it was all about, it's really the empathy message. We're in this together, and for me, it was even things like you'd look at like car commercials and it's like, hey, we're you know, we're staying open to try to help you. And it's kind of like this whole marketing hug message. And now that we've been seeing that for 4, 5, 6 weeks, I'm kind of past that almost. Like, I'm like, okay, I don't need you to like pretend you're staying open to like try to help me out. Like, now just sell me your product again, right? Like, are you starting to get that feeling in real estate too, where it's like, no, I get that there are some like outlying kind of things that we have to deal with, but just sell me on the merits of what I'm trying to do right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, throughout this shelter in place and pandemic, I had to keep laying these disclaimers over my conversation, like, okay, safety is the #1 priority, but, and then and then weaving in real estate. So I think the way we've been doing that now is just having a little more fun with our messaging. I mean, we're all sheltered in place. We're all kind of watching our phones and our laptops like hawks throughout the day. And so we're just trying to have a little more fun with it now. There's so much fun stuff in real estate. There's the architecture, there's design, there's home improvement, and there's a lot of things. And then so we have started just kind of trying to be a little more direct, but also not really pushing the fact that we need to sell something. We're just kind of celebrating and enjoying the good parts of real estate, and subtle reminders that we are here. If somebody needs us, then we can help them, and we have ways to do it safely.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the important thing is it's, okay, we're open for business, right? And we've now put in protocols to make this happen. So if you don't feel comfortable, we're not going to sell you on something. But if it's something that you need to get done, like, you can do that,
Right. Yep.
So
exactly. And there are people that need to get stuff done, right? I mean, there is the person who maybe came here on a transfer that thought they would be living in a 500-foot apartment temporarily, right? And they're going crazy in that place. And so they're like, yeah, rates are great. There's buy opportunities in the market. Get me out. Let's do this. Can you do it safely? And then there's people who will be motivated to move up, and people who are motivated to downsize. There's the transactions are going to come flying at us in many ways, right? Once this thing kind of eases up a little bit. That's, if there's something to be excited about as a broker, it's that. I think once things loosen up again, we're going to just be serving the needs of people in so many different ways, more than we ever have. And so, it's, the messaging is getting a little more clear, and we're just trying to help people understand, because as you probably know, the public, a lot of times with real estate in the marketplace, is about 6 months behind, right? So we do want to send a message out there for those who want or need to get into the market that it is happening, and we are making it happen.
So you had mentioned earlier, you were talking about all the fun different parts of real estate. And one of the reasons I was actually excited to talk to you as well is, a good chunk of your business is new construction and smaller developments and infill and different things like that. And I know you have a kind of a broad, base of new construction experience. What are you seeing on that realm? Those are people that I'm assuming they don't want their product to just sit there. So they're wanting to transact, they're wanting to get business done. Like, what's kind of the mentality on the new construction side right now?
So on the new construction piece, for the inventory that we have on the market, the builders are just doing a really good job about sanitizing the homes, making their safety plans very clear, and making people feel as comfortable as possible, and showing the new construction homes. They're obviously typically vacant and staged. So we've been able to create a safe showing environment for those, which is good. The developer persona or mentality right now somewhat seems like it's sitting on the sidelines, waiting for some buy opportunities to come into the market. Those developer builder types that are in the market right now are just being really cautious with their acquisitions, without really knowing too much about future market conditions, labor and material costs going forward. Those guys that are in the market right now are just being real careful, right? It makes sense. Mm-hmm. They have to get their margins on the acquisition because of the unknowns, the other variables that come into play that we have no control over. So we are talking to our developer clients, those that are interested in, we're still looking for sites. We're still looking for density. We clearly in a shortage of inventory right now. And so a lot of our clients are starting to aim towards a more affordable products, smaller units for ownership, not for rent. I think there's a pretty big appetite for that actually, coming into maybe a townhouse style condo in the 400,000 price point. And then, yeah, so that market segment is still busy, and everybody's still in different places, whether they're building or buying or sitting. And so we're just keeping them informed like the rest of our clients.
So, along those lines, if I know a lot of them are kind of sitting a little more on the sidelines for acquisition, but if people are finding things, like are the services open? Are like the subs still working? Is the city even working with you? Like, is it even possible to get stuff done, or is it just like business as usual on that side?
That's a good question. I know our current job sites are still working, right? So they had mandatory protocol placed on job sites, signage and safety procedures, just like everybody else. But yeah, they're still working, and they're working hard. And in some cases, they're making more progress during the pandemic than they would have otherwise. I mean, just the simple logistics of travel time and shipping and some things like that, material and material and product acquisition. So some of them, they're making good progress, those that are still swinging the hammer, so to speak. And so, yeah.
So you'd mentioned, that your particular clients are kind of thinking they're going to be going more toward affordable housing and, smaller units and things like that. Is that something that you think is going to be more of a trend going forward, or is that just kind of the guys that you're working with?
I think it has to, Aaron. I think it has to become more of a priority and a trend for everybody. As we've seen in the last, I don't know, I've been in the business for 15 years, and I mean, we've all seen what's happened to Portland prices. Portland is, always, in my opinion, considered the darling of the Pacific Northwest or even the West Coast. And so with that, I think the feeder markets are going to continue to really send buyers to Portland, New York, LA, Chicago, San Francisco, Seattle. Given the prices there, I think those markets are going to be feeding Portland more than they ever have after COVID. And I think that we have to continue to try and prioritize affordability. And I think you'll see more and more builder developers do that. I'd like to see the city be able to facilitate and accommodate those efforts. And again, it just all boils down to, in many cases, that land acquisition. What can they get the land for, and what can they put on it to serve the best appetite in the market? Yeah, so we've got to clearly have an affordability issue, and we got to do something about it. So those who can will build a more affordable product. You'll have a quicker absorption, and then you'll have kind of a more varied, the fabric of the neighborhood will be increased and enhanced, in my opinion, when you can pepper in more affordable housing. We're also seeing a flight out of Portland with some developers and development potential for, general affordability purposes as well. So I think we have to all start thinking in that direction.
So I know, like, in the kind of the conversations I hear coming out of like city government and things like that, affordable housing is always one of the things that they are mentioning and bringing up. Is the city, that, at least from what you've seen, are they doing anything to help accommodate that other than, the subsidized apartments and things like that? Are they doing anything to make it easier to build affordable housing?
From my perspective, and I wish I had a more intelligent opinion on this, but from my perspective, a lot of the affordability and affordable housing efforts are on the rental market, the apartment market. There are areas that our developer clients who are building product for sale can take advantage of. Usually it's geographically located, geographically based, and not necessarily something that the city is doing, to facilitate affordable housing construction.
Gotcha. So now, if you're just to kind of wrap this up, I know that you're a busy guy. So if you were to take a look at everything that you're seeing right now between your own personal business, the builder business, your brokerage, obviously you have a brokerage that's done a pretty good job of establishing yourself in kind of a niche market, as far as like you've really embraced that whole area there off a division. Like, what do you look for? Like, what are you seeing right now in regards to market? And what are the things that you see right now that make you continue to feel positive about where real estate's going right now?
Oh man, that's a loaded question, and I could speak for hours on that. Well, let me try and get out a clear thought here. So I sold through the recession back in 8, 9, 10, and that clearly was a house of cards. And for me, that was one of the biggest eye openers as to how resilient Portland is, how insulated our real estate is, and for all the reasons we know about. And even since then, we've built and put in place the fundamentals of a real market, more jobs, right? We still have the lifestyle component that's drawing people here. We have resources. We have so much going for us. And so to me, and I'm a fairly conservative business person, but I'm more than bullish on Portland real estate. I mean, I just think it's such an exciting time for us. We're at a crossroads where things could go in any one direction for Portland, and we need to be very careful there. That's another conversation. But gosh, I mean, I just couldn't be more excited for the brokerage community, for our buyers and sellers. I think we have such a bright future ahead of us. I think we're going to see trends like iBuyer come back really strong into the market, which we've been studying iBuyer. We're iRep certified. And we think and we're predicting a large surge in that marketplace just simply due to COVID and basically plug in your address, get an offer. So we're watching that very carefully. We're seeing, a flight to rural or just more property for people. People maybe want a family compound, pool, sport court, those types of things, maybe more space. I tell you what, it's a great time to be in Portland. It's a great time to be in Portland real estate. And I think no matter what your niche market is, if there's even a niche market, I think you're in a good place. One thing we have to do as realtors is remember we're salespeople. We got to plug in our activity, our recipe for sales activity and whatnot. And, as long as you're working the plan, things are going to be, I think once we come out of this, everybody's going to be in a good place.
I like it. Hey, just since you brought it up, we'll go with, and you kind of touched on it. I mean, I hit you with one more. You are, one of the few like brokers and brokerages that really kind of embraced iBuyers early, and they were really ramping up, and then this happened and they just like shut their doors like overnight almost. Like, what do you see? Like you mentioned that you're positive on, you're like, no, this is going to be a great tool for us. We think that they're going to come back and be really busy. What makes you think that, and where do you see them fitting into the market going forward?
Well, so the gears are already turning again in iBuyer world now that we've kind of, maybe hit bottom is the way to phrase it. But so we're seeing Opendoor come back into the market slowly. They're going to start making offers in Portland soon. Then you'll see Zillow and maybe some other players come in. Just think about how useful the iBuyer model will be for your, say, contingent buyer. And you can use iBuyer or the iBuyer concept as a platform to move through a contingent situation for your buy and sell. You could have people who no longer are comfortable running tons of people through their home, and so they can get an offer without any of the traditional measures. Now, it's not that, as we know, working the close-in Portland market, the inner east and inner west side, we don't have a lot of the housing stock that supports that. But I think we'll see a lot more activity coming into our neighborhoods where, you get a lot more property that fit in the buy box, and people taking advantage of it just for a plethora of reasons. And so, it's a controversial subject in the brokerage community, but we just simply use it as another tool. It's not for every client, but it is for some clients. And sometimes we can introduce the concept and put together a buy sell, or put together a situation where in the end the client gets what they want, and we help facilitate that. And that's what we want to do. We're pro consumer choice, right? So we want our clients to know of all of their options. They'll still likely choose us as a traditional brokerage, but we feel really good about presenting everything. And that's kind of the position we take, is like, if there are options out there, we want to share it with our clients. And if they choose that option, so be it.
Yeah.
If it's good for them, it's good for us.
Yeah, and I think that's just such a great mentality. It's not about trying to fight off new things that are coming. It's becoming educated and figuring out what is truly best for your client. And while that may not work for everyone, like there are going to be certain circumstances where that's just the best decision they can make and the best opportunity for them.
That's correct. Yep. Yeah, and to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I think iBuyer, I think they're out there, they're going to start raising more money, and they're going to come into the market hot and heavy, and kind of probably using COVID and shelter in place as a leverage or a pain point, so to speak, to gain more market share. And so, yeah, we say don't resist the iBuyers. They're coming no matter what. Use it when it's appropriate.
That's great. Well, Eric, I really do appreciate your time. You are a wealth of knowledge and have such a broad perspective. I sincerely appreciate it.
Hey, the respect is mutual. I really appreciate being here. It's great talking to you.